What's going on, everyone? My name is Jonathan with Cinco Squad. With me are my brothers Trey Day, Grandpa J, and Mike A. Here we go again. What's going on, fellas? How is your week going so far?
Splendid.
Don't all jump in at once.
Splendid.
Yes, it's going very well. We're actually having nice weather up here in the Northeast now, so that's fun. Just
It
the
is
time for
springtime.
Yeah,
Yes.
it is full summer here. It's 92
Yes.
degrees today. I was
That's what I hear.
melting on deck. I had to get a tent for a couple of parents, so I was sitting out there literally about to pass out. I'm like, you guys look like you're a little lightheaded. So it's full
Yeah.
summertime already here, man. It's crazy.
Bro, it's crazy. I went out at 7 o'clock tonight, and it
Yeah.
was 97. It's
Ooh.
brutal. And
Yeah.
it's like the humidity hits you right in the face. Like, boom.
Slapping
So
it.
it's like
That's oppressive.
but it's perfect. Yeah, I'm a crazy person when it comes to working out. So like for me, I love this weather for like going for a run or something, putting a full hoodie on, sweatpants, getting that full workout in.
Such a
and then
mad
just-
lad. What a
I
mad
remember,
lad.
remember that one day. Remember Mike? Remember that one day I
Yeah,
went
that's
for a
when-
walk in the morning. I'm like, yeah, I got to get this walk over with. And like, I accidentally walked too far. I think I walked 10 miles by accident. It was like 100 out. Mike's like,
Yep.
don't do that again.
How
Wearing
long
the
did that take
sweatsuit.
you? Were you walking for like 6 hours?
No, I was walking probably 2.5,
There's no way you
2.5
walked 10
hours.
There's no way you walked 10 miles.
I mean, it might have been 10, but I was wearing one of
You
those.
felt like
like,
it. I'm sure.
I was wearing one of those, like, you know, the sweatsuits where, like, you know, like kind of like the trash bag method. Like, I was
know.
wearing that with pants and stuff, and I was like, I was dying. I don't know if it was 10. It may have been like something short of that,
High
but like
school
it was a.
wrestler trying to make weight.
I was like, damn. Mike's like, don't do that again.
Don't do that again. Every so often I would hear, "Oh, thank God." I'd be like, "Oh, what? You're finally home?" He's like, "No, I'm at a part of the route that's got shade."
That's what I'm saying, bro. They'll find you if you're like the bum with the best shoes in the history of the universe, all wrapped up in a freaking garbage.
Mikey
Oh,
Mike,
Mikey.
what is in your cup, bottle, can, whatever, gallon?
Sit.
I have this vat of Mountain Dew. No.
Imagine he wheels out like
A keg.
great
He's like, I
rulers.
can lift up a keg like this.
I'd be
I
like,
have in honor of the playoffs, I have a Stanley Cup of Sam Adams. No.
Kick him up.
This week is another bottle. We have a Cayman Jack Moscow Mule. One of my classic
going to
favorites.
the islands, man.
I drank a little Cayman Jack this weekend, the mango flavor one. It wasn't bad.
I have not tried the mango one, but
I went to the can though. The bottle looks more.
How is it?
yes, good. I
it?
first had these. I think it was 2 years ago when I went on my family beach trip. One of cousins from Maryland was like, "Here, I feel like you'd like this. Try this." And I was like, "Oh, these are good." And I had like 6 over the next like 3 days.
It's super sweet though, isn't it?
Oh, it's very sweet. If you don't like
Yeah.
sweet stuff,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
don't
No.
even
Yeah,
try.
you're feeding.
Nah, that wouldn't be for me. You know what we should do? I was just thinking about that. Like, we should all do a show from like the Caribbean or something at one time. Like, one of these years, just like go to the Caribbean, do a live show from the beach. That shit would be hilarious. And knowing us, we get hit by a hurricane or something.
Guess who's not coming back? Guess who ain't coming back with you guys? I'm just gonna extend that trip.
We forgot that Jamie booked a one-way flight.
All right, Jay, come on. Now I'm staying.
My flight was one way. See you guys later.
Yeah, that's why he didn't bring a suitcase. Yep, that's why. I'm house.
Yeah, I was the only thing. Like when I thought that in my head, I'm like, Jamie's gonna immediately say, "Let's go to St. Lucia," and like, all right,
Yep.
well,
Sure.
well, I mean, it would be like ideal because you could show us around to all the spots and like kind of keep us away from like all the non-touristy spots that like are bad and stuff like that. Because I know you telling me about that type of stuff, but like, I think that would be pretty cool for us to like do that from like an island or something, like a bungalow,
That'd be
like
dope.
next to the water. That'd be sweet.
The Bahamas would be a good spot to do it too because it's a quick trip and then
Right.
quick.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and the St. Lucia's a little farther. It's the farthest island, I think, right?
There's far down there. I mean, it's like a 4-hour flight, and then we got to drive a while. But hey, any Caribbean island works for me, guys.
Right.
Well, I know what does work for you is your bets of the week. And how did you
Right.
do last week?
I believe
Start over to
last week
Jay.
I went 3-2 thanks to some terrible calls in hockey. Actually, you
But
know
you're
what?
on a winning though. You have a winning
No,
record.
no. I went 2-3 because Arsenal
Oh, I think
also
it's 3-2.
did the bet at home. So I was
Okay.
right with the other calls, but Arsenal kind of did me real dirty, and so I'm hesitant. I'm hesitant to to make a call here and decide whether I want to go back across the pond. But why not go across the pond, gentlemen? You know I like to roll sometimes with these English teams and hope for the best when it comes to making a call. And right now, it's like a critical time in the year because some teams are trying to fight relegation. So there's certain teams where you figure like, well, why are you going to take that team who's at the bottom of the table? Well, sometimes when you go at the bottom teams, they tend to give more because they're fighting for their lives. If they don't stay up
Right.
in the they're losing out on a tremendous amount of revenue, not just a little bit, but a tremendous amount of revenue. So
Right.
Newcastle, who, as a Liverpool fan, I need them to lose, is playing Leicester City, and it's a Monday game, and weird things happen on a Monday. So I'm going to take Leicester for the upset at Newcastle. That's going to be the Monday game. So I'm tracking back here in the weekend. So I'm taking Leicester because they have to win or else it is doomsday almost for Leicester at this point. So I think the desperation kicks in. They've been playing horrible. Something has to go right for them at some point. I think Newcastle underestimates them. So Leicester over Newcastle. Liverpool is playing their best football of the year, taking them at home to beat Aston Villa. I don't normally take my teams when I call out for my bets of the week, but Liverpool is too juicy to pass up at this point. I love the
We got
Lakers.
our G3 on their hands.
Yeah, I love the Lakers
Juicy.
tomorrow night. Like I said, Denver's record against the Lakers in the playoffs is 9-25 all time. I don't think they've ever won back-to-back game against the Lakers. I don't think it happens this year either. So I think the Lakers steal game two. So I got the Lakers stealing that game. And then let's take it to the ice, where I know John is a very upset hockey fan right now, where he is hoping to have Seattle go to Vegas, and we could talk about Seattle and Vegas more
That'd be
than
sweet.
the other. But I think Vegas handles Dallas. Tough 7 game series for Dallas. Vegas is just waiting to salivate and just absolutely destroy them in game one. I think it ends up a 4 or 5-1 scenario. So take Vegas there. And then I know it's really mixed up this week, but
Very.
very mixed up this week. But the Mets are probably playing their worst baseball of the season. I like the Rays to sweep them, so I'm taking the Rays tomorrow against the Mets, or Saturday, whatever day you want to take, or Friday, sorry, whatever day you want to take the Rays, take the Rays. So love the Rays this weekend against the Mets, no matter what game you want to bet on them, whether it's tomorrow or the day after. Take the Rays, and that's my bets of the week, gentlemen. I'm all over
Yes,
the map,
sir.
all over the
That
map.
is Jamie just went around the world and back, and that's his bets of the week. Make sure you lock those in starting tomorrow when he has the Lakers in Denver game 2. He has the Lakers winning that game outright. Is that correct?
Right. That's right.
Okay, so
Which Trey is
that's
very happy
Jamie's.
about.
All right,
Yeah,
Lakers, Rays, Vegas, Liverpool, and the absolute, they have to get it done or else they are going to be shitting themselves. Leicester City, because they'll be relegated if they don't get a win.
Oh, they will?
That they are on the verge of it. A loss kind of secures that. So
That would suck.
way too talented of a roster to be flirting with relegation. Way too talented.
so one of the picks you said was Vegas, and like ultimately, I know I wanted to crack and move on, but I think Dallas is the better matchup in this series too.
Mhm.
Just even though I wanted to crack the expansion Western Conference Final, I think this was a better matchup. Ultimately, I think Dallas is one of the most underrated teams going into the playoffs, so I think that's a better matchup. And you got to remember, Vegas did go 7-2 against one great Connor McDavid. So
That's right.
but as we keep it on the court here, fellas, we got the NBA draft lottery last night, and this sparked a question, that I had before we get into this. Is before we react to it, what are your thoughts on a lottery? Do you feel that there should be a lottery, or do you feel like there shouldn't be a lottery? Because it seems like I don't know if baseball does it, Mike, but it just seems like NHL and NBA are the only ones that do like a lottery for the first pick. Which I mean, it's kind of weird, right? It's like you're the shittiest team, you should be first, but it's like also like there's two sides to this. So what are your thoughts on the NBA draft lottery and just in the lottery itself?
Yeah, I don't like lotteries for these leagues because it's So I guess I kind of see it both ways a little bit in the sense of like, if you're the worst team, I agree. You should get the first overall pick because you were the worst team. But lotteries can be considered a deterrent to tanking because it doesn't necessarily mean even if you're the worst team that you're going to get the first pick. But I would still hedge myself towards there not being lotteries and just having it be as the standings go. Because you're still going to, 9 times out of 10 in a draft, you're still getting a good prospect, a really, really good prospect that can help you immediately if you're in the bottom 5 or in the top 5 in the sense of the draft. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of lotteries, but I guess I kind of get what they're going for with it.
Trey Day, what's up? What do you think?
Oh, I'm all for the lottery. Because of tanking and things such as that. But you know, the best example why I got for the lottery, the whole process thing, the Sixers wanted to keep tanking and trying to get like this great thing, and it never really happened. I mean, I guess you get Embiid, but he was the number 3 pick. They kept trying to tank to get 1 and kept blowing it. They didn't deserve to be at the top of the draft. So I was happy to see that. This would have been a year where people tanked extra hard to get Wemby, and we saw it even with Portland doing it at the end. So I'm all for the lottery because I'm too scared of like half of the NBA trying to not tank. The other thing too, where the NBA is a little bit different, I'll say for them versus like the NFL, if you're like the 17th pick, you may get a starter. There's a good chance if you're the 17th, let's say 13th pick, whatever, you're in the NBA, you may not actually get a starter out of that. Most draft extras would consider a 3 to 5 player draft, so people would be like sprinting to the bottom at that point. But that's partly in nature because the NBA only has 5 people in the game at once. So the nature of the NBA, to me, makes it where the lottery is, in my opinion, better. But in a way, it's kind of a catch-22 because the lottery incentivizes people to also still lose to get down there. And there's a certain part where I don't know. I've always it's a side tangent, but I've always felt bad for players in a way because it's like, okay, if you're Victor Wembanyama, you're the top player. You know what your reward is? You go to one of the worst teams in the league. So I've always found the draft inherently jacked up. If you go to Harvard and you get out of law school, you're the top lawyer. We don't jump up and say, all right, when you go to the worst law firm in the country, you actually get to go better. So it's a side tangent, but that's like what I feel about it.
That makes sense. So that makes sense. So I mean, like when you look at the NBA draft lottery and the NHL lottery, what I was talking to Malin's uncle about was that both lotteries got the teams that ultimately the NBA needs to be successful. In the NHL, it needs to be successful. NBA needs the Spurs to be successful. When's the last time the Spurs had this bad of a run, right? Had this bad of a team? It's been a while, right? I mean, you NBA experts below. I mean, it's been a while since you've seen the Spurs at the bottom of the league, right? So, in a sense, I don't know if the lottery's fixed or not. And if it is, that's cool. But like the Spurs are a team that I think, and just same with the Blackhawks getting the first pick, the NHL needs the Blackhawks to be good. They're one of the original 6. Them being at the bottom of the league year after year after year is not good for NHL at the fan bases. So like I feel like that's the same thing for the Spurs. Do you feel like that plays a factor too? Like ultimately in the lottery, do you feel like it's a little fixed in that way? Like they need those teams. There are always certain teams.
No. Why would you send your top prospect to San Antonio in 1997? You're not going to make Tim Duncan go there. Remember, Boston was on the board. You would have sent it to the story franchise of Boston if we were trying to fix this. You don't send them to little San Antonio if it's that. So no, I don't think it's fixed. I know people say that, but some of this just doesn't add up with teams. I mean, I know LeBron made sense for the Cavs at that time, but why would they keep giving the Cavs of all teams the number 1 pick all those years? Like that's
it makes sense.
Yeah, who wants to do that? No.
Jay, what's your thoughts on the lottery?
I really think it's unfortunate for the fans of teams that get to a certain point in the season and realize they're eliminated early. I think that's really one of the reasons the NBA opened up more spots for the playoffs, because if up to number 10 has an opportunity to get into a playoff series, then certain teams should think like, hey, I only have to beat out 5 teams to have an opportunity to play in a playoff series, or at least get a playing game. So I feel that as much as we complain about and say, well, are we going to let every team in? Like maybe when we were talking about that whole thing about the they can have certain stipulations if they have the playing tournament, like you lose your rights to the lottery if you try and not play everybody, because the whole point is to have the stars out in full effect when you're trying to do something that seems like a gimmick, but you want every star to play. But going back to the lottery itself, the interesting thing about it is that we know teams decide at one point we're going to tank, but it's a risk for them because Detroit by far was the worst team this year. And even though they had a 14 or 15% chance, and that's why the lottery is not rigged, because the team with the worst record has the highest probability because they have the most ping pong balls in there. So there's a probability that that's going to end up being one of the balls that are chosen later on, right? Because, oh, sorry, that's the least, I think it's the least amount, like, because they go from up to down, right? So you have your ball in there, and most likely you're not going to be the one picked early enough because there's more with the other teams. So I just find like we've gone to a point here where I love Trey's point, where we've gotten so used to the best player having to go to the team that seems to have to be the one in the biggest rebuild. I actually think Detroit is not that desperate in the biggest rebuild because they got Jalen Ivey and Cade Cunningham, who are almost to the point where you consider one of the like that they will be great players. They may make all-star teams. So I don't think, of course, Wemby would turn any team around. Big win for the Spurs here because he seems like a once in a generational player. But the lottery is not fair for the fans because there's going to be those 8-9 teams that just decide, and fans pay the same money to go to those last 15, 16 games, that they're not going to give you their best product. And that's what really sucks about it. It takes away from fans who can afford to be there later on in the year not getting what they deserve, which is to see that team play its best basketball, regardless of where they rank in the league at that point. And so it's just we have an expression in the Caribbean called a teeth head. It messes with your head. It's like a teeth head that you take your kid to a game and it's like, look, sorry, son, you're not going to get to see these stars play because the team is tanking. How the hell are you supposed to describe that to your kid who loves the game? It's just kind of sucks for it.
Yeah, that's a good. It's good. All good takes. I mean, honestly, like, I see both sides of it, right? Like, I see the lottery being, at the end of the day, you're not in a good position if you're in any type of situation with the lottery or anything because, right, like your team's not competing for a playoff. But I agree with you, Trey, in the sense of it allows for better basketball and potentially hockey too, because you can't just tank. You can't just go because you still don't have the number one pick. It's not like I forget who had the number one pick this year for football, but I forgot off the top. Carolina, right?
Chicago traded it.
Well, Chicago.
They traded it. Chicago traded it, right? So, but still, it's like you can't sit there and tank, and whatnot. But what are your reactions to the lottery last night? I mean, we had the top 5 be San Antonio, Charlotte, Portland, Houston, and Detroit. What are your thoughts on this?
I had a feeling the Spurs were going to get that. I don't know why. It's like, because like, how when there's a top of a for sure number 1 overall pick, the pictures always go around of like, oh, this is what he would look like in this jersey and this jersey for like all the teams that have a chance to get him. I saw the Spurs one of Wemby and I'm like, I don't know why, but that looks like right. For some reason, that looks like the jersey he's meant to wear. So I bet the Spurs get him. And then I saw I watched the results and I'm like, oh shit, the Spurs actually got it. I agree. It's with you, John, what you said in that it's good for the NBA because you're giving Pop a star. So I think it's a good place for the league to have him go as far as the traditional success, at least from the 90s on for the league. Like the Spurs have been a big franchise, and so having them be able to get, I shouldn't say giving them because I don't think it's rigged either. Having them be able to get this possibly once in a generation talent is huge for the league and sucks for every other team. But the Spurs are they're getting a real guy. Like I think he's gonna be a real problem.
Like the real.
I don't even think they got the best player in the draft. I don't even think they're gonna get the best player in the draft. I think the best player is going to go to who's number 2? Charlotte. So it's going to be Scoot Henderson. I don't know if you've watched that dude ball, but he's Trey put me on to him like 3 months ago, and I've been watching him ever since. And man, that dude looked like he was NBA ready right then and there. Like he'd go on a team right now, like sign with a team and everything. He's
Well,
gonna be
I
the
mean,
real problem.
I, I, but it's not a good fit for Charlotte. Like the Charlotte
It's
should not
not.
be
It's
reaching
not.
for a point guard, right?
If
Because they
anything, it should be.
already
It should
decided
be for like honestly, like Portland might be because that will
not a good fit
alleviate
for
from
Portland
Dame.
either, unless Portland decides to say, "Hey, we're done with Dame and we're going to risk rebuilding on Scoot." The,
So
the the best fit
But
is if it ain't Houston either, right? Like the best fit for him might actually be Orlando, who might decide to trade their 6 and 11 if
I
Orlando
wanted Orlando to get him.
do, right?
That's
And I
why.
would love that because I'll go watch him play more often than I thought about going watching Magic games and stuff. Actually, I'm like, do that, give away your 6 and 11. But it's a compromise here that Charlotte ended up with the two because I don't know if you know Charlotte wants Brandon Miller either.
Yep.
So it's really like this is going to be an interesting draft to really see where the pieces fall. I think we're going to see a lot of trades and swaps. And teams kind of decided, I want to be here instead. This might work out better for you. Almost like a gentleman's way of giving up certain picks or maybe swapping him for certain players.
right.
I'll tell you something interesting though with Wemby though. Given that the Spurs have such a rich history of the big man, Wemby is almost like the perfect hybrid. If you were to take Tim Duncan and David Robinson and do that, you might get a Wemby, right? Who could actually shoot, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And
It is probably the best guidance he can get to be under pop. I think for him, he's probably licking his chops saying, who else could I learn the game from? Who else would I rather have if I'm going to go to a shitty team that's probably not going to be great? At least I'm on a team where there's probably no better leader in the NBA. Of course, the days of Pops and his style of coaching may be behind him in terms of how to win in the NBA, but in terms of a mentor, I don't think you could ask for a better mentor, maybe other than landing in Miami at Pat Riley. But I mean, Pop is where it's at for his
I'd be
development. So
okay with that.
even if the Spurs have him for a limited amount of time, it's not going to be wasted development. I just hope it's not another Embiid situation where we get an early injury and we get cheated out of seeing how good he could be. I'm still waiting to see
3 to 4
Chet.
years.
I think Chet might challenge him for Rookie of the Year, to be honest.
Forgot
gets
Chet's
healthy.
going to be up for
You
that.
guys forgot Chet's gonna be a rookie, so we'll see how that goes.
Trey, what's your thoughts on the picks and whatnot?
I mean, Charlotte's in a weird position. I think they're going to trade out regardless. I don't think they're going to run Scoop with LaMelo.
Mhm.
And honestly, I hate to bring this up, but I just don't think they're going to put Brandon Miller on the squad while they got the whole Bridges thing going. So I just think that's going to be excuse.
That's too much.
What I was most actually, other than seeing what Wemby went interested in was, and I was really disappointed. I was pissed Dallas kept their pick. I wanted them to lose that pick so damn bad. That
So did
bullshit
everybody.
they did
A lot
at the
of
end of the
people.
year where they tried to tank to keep that position because they didn't want to give that pick to the Knicks, that was trash. That was garbage. Mark Cuban should be ashamed of himself as a competitive person. The Dallas Mavericks should be ashamed of themselves. So I was honestly adamantly rooting for them to lose that pick. So I'm hoping that whatever they want, I hope they don't get because that was bullshit. And I love Luke, and that's the crazy part about it. But it's a certain thing about being competitive, and there's a certain thing about standing up and actually doing the right thing. And that's why the draft lottery, to go back to what we were talking about before, I liked because it didn't give you a guarantee. And I was hoping that they got burned by it. So I hated that they still got to keep their 10th pick.
Yeah,
Right
I mean,
now, they're
seeing that.
projecting the kid right around the corner from here who played for UCF that nobody's talking about. That Hendricks kid who's just a monster on the block, which would probably be a really good fit for them because we know that's what they're missing. They're missing a front court rim defender, and it's almost like the perfect piece is going to fall to them too, which to me pisses me off too. It's like their plan worked to almost perfection, and you hate to see it.
Yeah.
So there's two teams in my mind that can make themselves a playoff contender team next year. Maybe not a contender, right, for the championship, but make themselves in the playoffs, right? And that is Detroit and Orlando. I like their positioning because of where they're at in the draft. I think they just are missing that one last piece that they can go and get and make themselves. I think Orlando plays some good basketball down the stretch. The last 2 months, it was rocky, lost some games and whatnot, but watching them play as a team, I think they've dealt with a lot of injuries throughout the year. And then the same thing for Detroit. Detroit had a ton of injuries all year. Cade Cunningham, one of them. And then the kid from Purdue, Jaden Ivey, he was phenomenal. Watching him grow into the player that I thought he was from Purdue into the NBA player that he is now. I think they're going to win this draft because it's going to be. They were close. They were close from making from a playoff run. I know it was probably farther away than people are probably gonna rip me for that. But like I think they're the teams that I see as potential contenders. I don't know what Charlotte's doing. I don't know what San Antonio's got. I don't know what Portland has. Portland's on the brink of probably losing Dame. So, there's a lot of question marks. What are your guys' thoughts? On who wins?
I definitely see Detroit because I think I don't think they'll end up getting either of the Thompson twins because they don't really need guards at this point. They're probably going to end up with Whitmore, the 3 from Nova, or Walker, the 4 from Houston, which I think is going to be great to be able to. They'll help Cade and Jaden stretch the floor throughout the season, so I think that's going to be really useful. I think I don't know if it's going to make them a playoff team, but I think the winner of this draft is San Antonio. I mean, I just think Wembanyama's going to be that guy. I mean, like to Jay's point, from a Spurs perspective, for Spurs fans, you take the fundamentals of this is all what he's projected to turn into. The fundamentals of Duncan with the defense and rebounding of Robinson, but he can score like Manu.
Mm-hmm.
So like they say he's a guard in a center's body, which is
but I think in this NBA, not to trash Embiid or in his speech on Sunday, but it is a game played 5-on-5, and it's even more today played 5-on-5 than anything. So having one player, I don't think automatically makes them a playoff contender. Because
I'm not saying
they weren't even close.
I'm saying win the draft.
That's what I'm saying. Be in the playoffs, like playoffs immediately, going into the playoffs next year.
Probably
Trey,
Detroit.
what's your thoughts, or Jay?
I don't know. I mean, it really depends because the West is open at the bottom.
Right.
So I don't think we look at the bottom teams and like, how could I say that the Lakers coming in at 7, right? Because it took them a while to figure out their roster. I think if the Lakers stay healthy, the Lakers are definitely not in that position at all next year. And of course, you're going to say, well, Dallas is definitely going to be improved. So you got, some teams have to drop off. They were like right there, kind of on the cusp of getting in. But if you have that sort of talent and it's generational talent, we know LeBron missed his first 2 years and then go to the playoffs. I think we see a big jump and improvement of Spurs basketball because what we saw from them last year is the worst defensive team in the history under Greg Popovich, to the point where he was coming out in press conferences and saying straight up, I can't teach them to be competitive defensively. They either have to want it or not. They know how to play defense, but they just feel like it's a non-factor when that's the only way to be successful in Pop's system is to be tough on the defensive end and turn turnovers into easy transition points, which is what the great teams did. The one thing I keep going back to here when I think about this draft is there's a lot of big available athletic players, right? So a lot of teams are going to get to bulk up their roster with big athletic players. Like Scoot's really the only 6'2" guard. I mean, you're talking about oversized guards. I mean, that's why like Orlando is really small at certain positions right now. You say Cole Anthony, but they're beefed up in other positions, right? They got Houston coming in at 6'8", Banchero 6'10". They got Bull. They have Wendell Carter Williams. They have huge players. They have what's his name, the German kid whose brother was playing for Michigan.
Franz Wagner.
Franz Wagner.
6'10". They're a giant team. I mean, like, and they're gonna get their hands on somebody else. So if we're looking at like certain teams making this play on having bigger skill positions, and they want to play the big game now because maybe the small game isn't working out. Because we said this year, teams aren't really 34, 35 threes. They aren't chucking up threes anymore. We're seeing that shift happen in the NBA where it's going to bigger skilled positional players who have to shoot. But maybe teams are going away from this Golden State style of building the dynasty. Or maybe this draft starts to really shift that, because a lot of people think this was, the end of the Golden State era. Maybe they give it one more try, who knows? But, I definitely have one player that I'm looking out for. I wish he stayed at Kentucky. That's Cason Wallace. I think he makes any roster better right away. He's a Danny Ainge kind of guy, so I think the Jazz scoop him up right away. I mean, the kid's 6'4", 200 pounds, and I mean, he rebounds like a monster for a 6'4" kid. not saying I know it's a homer thing right here, but the kid improved
I know.
more. He really
That's why I'm
improved more.
laughing.
He improved more than any other player in the country in terms of like his presence and leadership. When you looked at where he started to where he ended the
Yeah.
season, he seems like that kind of kid that goes into a system and just he's not afraid to take over or give him the ball or be that defensive dog that you want him to be. But Trey, talk about your boy Scoot Henderson because John said you turned him on. I'm interested to see why you're so high on him.
I mean, I've been high on Scoop just because he has a natural feel for the game, and I could see it day one when I first saw him. What I like with him playing in G League Ignite is he was getting to play with grown ass men, like some guys are the borderline NBA guys, things like that. Also, if you watch them even in the Rising Stars game, because they let them go through the whatever you want to call that thing that he tried as Rising Stars this year, they were playing against the rookies and sophomores. So he was playing against the guys his age, certain NBA, and looked pretty good. And I just like it's a natural feel. You can see him, he's smooth with the handle. He likes to give up the ball, but he also can shoot when needed. So that's why I like Scoot a lot. It just has to be the right fit. I mean, Charlotte, there's two ways Charlotte can go about this. They may draft him, just say, fuck it, put him back there with LaMelo for a quick second and see what happens and then trade LaMelo. That might be the option. Or see what happens with him and LaMelo because the underrated thing you got to remember LaMelo is like 6'6", 6'7". So it's not really like you're putting two little dudes back there. You're not recreating the Lillard and McCollum type situation. You're actually putting them with a big guard. So, and Charlotte needs to put something in box office. Taking in mind too, Charlotte is also about to be up for sale. So they do need to put something box office in there. Other thing is a side note, what I would say I think the most interesting position of them is going to be that 3. Portland says that they want to possibly trade that to see what they can do for Dame. So that is up for grabs. So when you say Orlando with the 6 and 11, they may come up for that. Or even a spot like a Utah type team that's holding a lot of assets, they may come up. Like there's somebody's going to come up and take that Portland pick. And I think Portland's more trying to keep Dame, not get rid of him, and then trade that pick to do something with it. So that number 3 is
that 3 stinks of Brandon Miller. Portland is infamous for taking players like that.
Yeah, I mean,
the crazy part about it is Miller's would fit them if they decide to stay there. Though I just don't know. No matter what, if they do stay at that 3, that time that doesn't fit with Dame. So if you stay at the 3, you need to trade Dame. If you do plan on keeping Dame, then trade the 3. You got to do one or the other. It's decision time for them. They got to buckle down and do something.
I have a theory
because they can get they can get multiple players for it. For that three spot, right? And some more picks. But the thing with Scoot Henderson, what I like about him in Charlotte is, you know, it all depends on who's the better shooter. Is it LaMelo? Is it Scoot? I think it's LaMelo just based off our knowledge and watching LaMelo play. And I feel like Scoot has that mindset where he can find LaMelo. LaMelo can come off the ball more instead of having to take the ball up the court. Where Scoot can find him. Like you said, he's a smaller guard. LaMelo could play the 2 or the 3 spot on that Charlotte team. Number 1. Number 2, obviously, is putting money in the owners' pockets, the new owners' pockets. And I think that's probably going to play a bigger factor. But, Mike, what's your theory on that? You think the Lakers, don't you?
No. My theory was on what Trey said because I was gonna bring that up too, that I had seen right before we hopped on that Portland is apparently seriously considering and probably going to move that 3 pick. So my theory on it is that yes, they are going to move that to Orlando. They're going to get the 6 and 11 and possibly some one or two role players in a deal for the 3rd pick. Orlando moves up to the 3rd pick. Portland has also expressed interest in getting DeAndre Ayton. So if they could flip the 11th pick for Ayton or the 6th, depending on what they would need to do, I understand it may not be the best option, but my theory is that's what they may end up doing. And they'll pick.
That's terrible.
It's terrible. They may do it, but I think
that'd be horrible. That would be horrible.
But I can honestly see it. With that being said, I realistically.
It's just I don't agree with it.
Yeah, I just don't agree with it. But I can see they're gonna do something desperate here, and I think they're gonna drop the bag. Because I think Portland.
But you've seen what Ayton's done in the playoffs. You've seen what he's done in crunch time. You've seen what he's done in the NBA Finals. Nothing.
That guy score?
Nothing.
He's not even available now when you need him.
Exactly. So it's like, well, as we talk about, these draft lottery, there are some teams that scooted into the
Ah,
NBA playoffs there.
Seems
So we
good.
have is an underdog. My Miami Heat and Trey's Los Angeles Lakers are the underdogs in this playoff, making a run. And Jamie brought this topic up, and I thought it was a really good one. And is an underdog really motivated when people doubt they can win?
Most
Jay, I'll throw it over to you.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, we hear it's an old school term, right? Like, don't give them the newspaper material, right? Like, don't let them post that in the locker room. Don't give the team an opportunity to have more motivation. You're talking about two teams that have probably two of the biggest dogs in the NBA when it comes to give me the ball, I'll take over the game, right?
Dawgs.
And that's probably a combination of LeBron or AD because both of them have that mentality, and then Jimmy buckets. So you don't want any of those players to come in there feeling like, how dare you doubt us? Like, we've been to
Right.
NBA finals. Like, we have championship caliber coaching. We have a roster full of hungry players. Like, we have players who will do anything to win. So a lot of times you look at a situation in the NBA, and I don't think we've ever had an opportunity to have a 7 and 8 play in the final against each other. So you have to think for them as well. And one side of the coin, you're like, let's make history. Nobody, nobody would have predicted this finals unless you're a Lakers and Miami fan individually. You want them to get there. If we had to go, if at the beginning of the playoffs, the four of us had said make 5 potential final matchups, none of us would have said Miami Lakers. I don't think any of us would have said Miami Lakers because I don't think any of us saw Miami getting past the Bucks. Nobody predicted that Giannis was going to go down early. So that right there would have put us all out of contention of getting the finals right. But from the underdog standpoint, I do think for sure that when people start saying there's no chance, and some people do listen, some players don't, but you can always hear the rumblings, right? You can kind of read people's energy. That no chance kind of energy makes you kind of boil inside. You're like, you serious? You honestly think me, the greatest player of all time, or you think a Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra team put together to get to this point all the time? We know that's what they do. Miami plays to win the Eastern Conference. They don't play to just make the playoffs. You honestly doubt us? So I think for those
Right.
teams in particular, yes. For some other teams like Mike's Giants, where it's like, what do you mean we have no shot? We made it to the Super Bowl too. I think you just light unnecessary fuel for a fire of professionals that can get it done on any given day. Basketball is
Right.
different because it's a 7 game series, but for sure, I don't think you need. Every team has a bunch of pros on there, and those pros are going to get fired up over the fact that teams actually doubt that they can put it together and win.
Well, with I think it's different within football to basketball, right? Like basketball, if a guy goes off for 50, they're most likely going to win that game, right? There's not like a lot of things with football. You can come up with trick plays, you can throw it up, lay it all on the line. They say, right? With basketball, I think it's the same. I think it's the same mentality. Like guys aren't afraid to like just go and just you know do whatever they can for the team. Eric Spoelstra's not afraid to put out a lineup that he thinks during the regular season really wasn't the greatest, but hey, we got to throw something out there to get a spark going. I know Caleb Martin came in for a couple, had a huge game 4 or 5, and defensively, it wasn't on the stat sheet, but defensively, he locked it down for game 4 or 5, and that's what you need out of those type of players. When everyone buys into that underdog type mentality, like, hey, we're just gonna run through this and not who cares, right? So I think it does. I think it's in motivation, right? Like when you have that, and we talked about this last week with the Boston Bruins winning the President Trophy, being the team, right? I said it in my clip. They're gonna go run through Florida. Now look how dumb I look. Like Florida's in the conference finals right now, so it's
And might
like
be in the Stanley Cup.
might be in the Stanley Cup if they can get through Carolina. So
1 year
with
later, right?
with this, it's like when you have that much pressure of being the best and being the best throughout an 82 game season, a 16 game season, 162 game season, it weighs on you in all sports. Like the Dodgers last year meltdown. Look at they had 117 wins or something like that, or whatever, 111, 112, but eliminated. So I think that underdog fires up. I mean, that's why we watch March Madness, right? We watch March Madness for a Farley Dickinson and FAU to go out there and just
Get
dominate.
him, Mike.
So ultimately, I think playing with the pressure of not having, a lot of can't think of the words right now, but like having a lot of like just playing free. I think you play a lot
Loose.
more free, loose. Like, hey, I'm just going out and play basketball. I'm just going to go hoop. It's kind of like we were talking about last week with the bubble. Talking about they're just playing free, just playing basketball like they were kids back in the park and stuff like that. So, Trey, what you think?
I mean, I think it's fascinating. I kind of have a different angle of this, though. I think to an extent, the top guys, Jay named a couple guys like LeBron or like a Jimmy Butler. To be honest with you, I think it does motivate them a little bit, but I think it's really the middle guys that are motivated. Because if you're a guy like LeBron or somebody, you're gonna find this material. You're gonna find whatever. So, for like last year, I remember the Warriors win the championship. They go up there and they're like, nobody believed in us. Nobody believed in us. It's like, you're a goddamn Golden State Warriors. They didn't nobody believe in you.
Yeah.
People always find Michael Jordan every time is finding some motivation. And there's one guy who somehow said, "Oh, I can stop doing." Kobe did it. All these guys, where those guys, they're gonna find something, even if it's made up. Michael Jordan said he used to make up stuff in his head, and he never was the underdog. So those guys are gonna make it up anyway. It's those middle guys. I think those are the ones who really take it more personal because those are the guys who are always slept on. So I think that's why when you look at like Caleb Martin, like you just named, or a guy like Dennis Schroeder type, which is doing for the Lakers right now, I think that's why those type of guys, even like a Marcus Smart, these type of like middle guys, I think those are the guys that take it more personal because they're always doubted. So they take it more personal when they're the underdog. But honestly, the guys at the top, Jimmy Butler gonna be a dog. If I walk in there right now and be like, Jimmy Butler, you're great, he's gonna be a dog anyways. I once heard a story where Jimmy Butler, he said that if his agent calls him to tell him about accolades, as soon as he starts the sentence, Jimmy Butler hangs up the phone because he doesn't want to hear it because he's keeping that chip on his shoulder. So if we all jump up tomorrow and every media person jumped up and said, Peter's gonna win, Jimmy Butler's just gonna make up some shit because that's who he is. It's the middle dudes. Those are the ones I think that take the underdog shit like super personal.
Yeah, and then ultimately throw it into people's faces when they do make it to the finals and everything. And then I think that's why Jimmy is such an exciting player right now. Not only because he is a great player, he's an All-Pro, everything like that. But when you look at him, he does play. Like I almost say he plays kind of like Dwayne Wade in his early career. Like when Dwayne Wade always felt like Dwayne Wade had even though Dwayne Wade was first of the brotherhood between LeBron, Carmelo, and Chris Paul to win a title in 06, he still always had that chip on his shoulder. It felt like it always felt like he needed to prove himself more. And I feel like that's with Jimmy. Even if he wins the championship this year, he's still gonna feel like that. He's still gonna feel like he has something to prove. And I think that motivates like you said, the middle guys. Like, hey, he's going at 150% right now. Why aren't we? He wants this. And he watched his team last year lose in the first round. So, Mike, what's your thoughts?
So my initial thought when I saw this topic also took me to Jimmy Butler, which is that you'd think the league would have learned by now to stop telling Jimmy Butler he can't do something because he's, like you said, he's always going to be a dog like that. And also find it slightly interesting that Jimmy Butler seemingly makes up things to keep the chip on his shoulder. Michael Jordan made up things to keep the chip on his shoulder. There's rumors about that. But pretty much. But I also took it to hockey when I saw it because you look at a team like the Seattle Kraken. You look at those lower seed teams in the NBA like the Lakers and Heat. Yeah, exactly. But like I think it does motivate these teams because like you said, they could play in all of these sports. They play free, loose. Like they can look around their locker rooms and go, guys, we're not even supposed to be here. Like nobody thinks we're supposed to be here. So what do we have to lose? And I think that's what carried Seattle through what I still consider a successful playoff run because they just weren't supposed to be there. It's their second year in the league. Last year they had the fifth go back to lotteries. They had the fifth overall pick, which means they were in the bottom 5 teams of the league. Actually, I believe they were the worst team in the league last year. I think they were supposed to have the first or the second. I can't quite recall. But anyway, they're a prime example of one of those teams that just has nothing to lose and can play free. And okay, if we get swept in the first round, well, we weren't even supposed to be in the first round. So what does it matter? We're just going to build upon it next year, and the year after that, and the year after that. So I think these teams that get doubted it just gives them more building blocks, more of a foundation for their franchise and their players to be even better than they were before.
When it comes to the playoffs and the essential, the one thing I look at about with every team, when any playoff team, is the chemistry. How are the guys camaraderie with each other on the sidelines? Like, how are they working with each other? Like, the Lakers look like they're having so much fun together, and you haven't seen that since 2020. So the Nuggets look like finally they've got the right pieces in line to do what they have to do and build this championship roster. The Heat look like it. Like I said, like the Chiefs always look like it in football. You know, last year the Astros, unfortunately, I hate saying it, but they did. They looked like they were having fun to get, as a team. You know, those type of teams that I always look for that are having fun. If they're like the Draymond situation, I feel like Golden State was doomed from the beginning of the year.
Draymond essentially said he said it today.
He said that today. Yes,
ruined this season.
Correct, and he there was no way of getting it back because there was always going to be that. Like they had to make up, but I feel like it was a forced makeup, and it was like almost like, okay, well, yeah, we're good, we're in that aspect. So it's like, we have to be good to move on through the season,
Well, in that case, even that's interesting because can you really call the defending champ an underdog?
They were.
But think of it that way, right? Like a defending champion.
I get you.
With that much caliber of quality in terms of significant playoff games. That's why they really beat Sacramento. I mean, we know Fox was injured, but the significance of a game 7 to a lot of those guys is just like, all right, guys, let's go play game 7. To everybody else on Sacramento's roster, except Harrison Barnes, is the biggest game of their entire career. So, the looseness, like you said, that's really the point. Teams that could play loose where it's just house money every time. I mean, here's another interesting thing. Miami, Denver, and LA are the 3 teams who are unbeaten at home so far in the playoffs. You expect the 1 seed to be unbeaten at home. You don't expect the 8 and 7 seeds, respectively, to be unbeaten at home, right? So they're putting this chip on their shoulder too, where it's like, hey, we're defending home court, so you better hold your home court because we're going to get to the point where we're getting a game 7.
Right.
We're getting a game 7 because we're going to hold home court. So I feel like for them, they didn't play as underdogs and still are not playing as underdogs. Miami might have met Boston right now where Boston played their worst basketball, unfortunately, at home to start the playoffs. I don't think Boston is going to keep losing home games in the playoffs anymore.
Jason Tatum is different.
Mm-hmm.
He's different, man. He just,
I knew that Miami just took the lead though. They just came back.
Yeah, no. I just saw the score update. I'm looking at score update because I can't have my TV on while we're doing this, or I'll start lagging again. So I can turn off all my Wi-Fi.
I don't mind eating my words because it's both ways. I'm saying Jimmy's a dog, and at the same time, I'm saying Boston just has to play better at home if they're going to get by.
It's going to be a grind-out series.
Yep.
This ain't going to be like last year. Even though not last year, 2 years ago, where Boston, I think Boston won in 7, but it just seemed like Boston had a full control over the whole series. I don't think it's going to be. I think it's going to be back and forth. It's going to be just like back and forth until the end of I think it's going 7. Both series are going 7, but yeah, I mean, I think the underdog plays a huge factor. I think that's why we watch sports, is to see that underdog. Like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Like we just said every year, like, okay, the Chiefs are winning the Super Bowl. Okay, don't even watch it. What's the point of watching? You watch it for these games, these exciting games. Like when we were on the phone, Trey, like 2 years ago, watching the Brady comeback against the Buccaneers and the Rams. Remember that?
Yeah.
And you were going. I remember you were going nuts because like you were ahead of me, and I was just like, you were like trying not to like scream and like God damn it, bro, like God. I remember that clear as day.
I don't like to remember that, but to follow that game.
Sorry, bro.
Yeah, but it was a treat for football fans. What followed that game was the Bills and Chiefs might be one of the greatest playoff games not played in the Super Bowl all time, right?
Yeah, right. So
I wish I wasn't at work during that game.
Yeah, that game was incredible. Just seeing those touchdowns. We all said it in our group chat, like whoever had the ball in overtime first wins the game.
Yep.
So as we keep these topics rolling, Jay, you just on fire the last 2 weeks with these topics, bro. Like you all right? Like calm down. Let everyone else get a chance.
Steam coming out of his ear.
Will a Canadian team win the Stanley Cup in this freaking decade? In this century? Like, God damn, it's been a long time. What was it? 93?
93. Montreal won their 24th. And that's the last time a Canadian team won.
30 years.
Yeah.
Toronto and Edmonton both eliminated this past weekend in Game 7 fashion. And two of the probably greatest players in hockey, Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid, still have not seen a conference finals.
Right.
Is this,
Actually, it was a gentleman's sweep for Florida. Toronto never had a chance in that series.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. 4-1, right?
Yep.
Yeah, 4-1. Sorry about that. Yeah.
They survived Game 4. Toronto survived Game 4.
So, like, what will a Canadian team win? What do you think?
Yes. Yes, and I mapped it all out.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I'm interested to hear this.
I mapped out to the moment it's going to happen and how this is going to happen. So,
Oh, boy.
It's going to sound all right.
Mark this day.
Mark this day. It's going to happen in 2028, and it's going to be the Toronto Maple Leafs. I know you're looking at me crazy. This is what's going to happen. Funny you bring up Connor McDavid.
No.
Free agency starts in 2027. Where's Connor McDavid from? Toronto. Where is he said was his favorite team growing up? Toronto. What jersey did he even have as a child? A Toronto Maple Leafs Connor McDavid jersey. He said he's never even owned a Maple Leaf jersey with a player's name because his dad, who was his coach, so it's going to mean a lot to him. His dad was his coach, only bought him McDavid Maple Leaf shirts. So he's going to do it. It's going to be around 2028, right after he's a free agent. It also is going to be the 135th anniversary of the Cup. So it's going to be kind of like this nice kind of smooth year because when they did it in 1993, it was the 100-year anniversary. So we're going to have like this nice smooth thing where it's going to be Toronto Maple Leafs led by Connor McDavid. The other fun part, as I said, his dad was his coach growing up. When does the Stanley Cup Finals usually end? Right around Father's Day. So it's going to be right around Father's Day. So he can hold that cup with his father in Toronto, and that is how it's going to go down.
Yeah, round of applause.
Hold on. What factory were you at today?
Okay. Have any of you guys ever seen It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
Yes.
Yes.
Charlie Day's like mapped out, like looking crazy. Like
Yeah.
I'm imagining that was Trey like an hour before this. Like, okay,
I got it.
Here. I got it.
There.
Why does that make sense though? That
It
makes
does.
total sense.
And that will be Cinco Squad's what year are we in? 23. It's 6-year anniversary at that time. So we'll look back. I got to make sure I bookmark that. If this happened,
yes.
Okay, so we should all for bets of the week, we should
it.
all put money on that right now.
If Vegas
Can we do that?
No.
Not that far in advance.
But
You can't go that far out.
no, because they have to create the odds for it. We may be able to do it 2 years in advance. They may do odds, but it's normally like the beginning of the year. But
We should do it 2 years then.
When the Simpsons make an episode of a Connor McDavid clip on TV wearing a Toronto jersey holding a Stanley Cup, that's when we know for sure that Trey Day saw the future 6 or 5 years prior to that.
Wow.
Well, that is an awesome. I don't even think we should talk
I am
after that.
I am astounded. I am astounded by how much that makes sense.
You convinced me. I said
Yeah,
no.
You convinced me 100%. So yes, they will.
No, I'll say that what I was gonna say, honestly, was that Toronto was gonna be the first one to do it, but that eventually, somewhere in this decade, McDavid would win one. So it may just be at the same time.
Yeah.
Which
And
is
that would be sweet. That would be something that I think hockey would love to see. And I think hockey has been wanting to see for years is Sidney Crosby and Ovi play together. They've been calling for that for years. Either Sidney going to Washington, anytime a contract comes up, they're like, "Oh, this is the year." But I think this is what hockey would want is to see Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid on the same ice together, which would be absolutely. That just wouldn't be fair.
And don't you think Edmonton already has the best 1-2 punch right now?
100%. I think Leon Draisaitl is one of the most underrated players in the league right now because he sits behind Connor McDavid. I mean, going into that Vegas series, he had 11 goals going into that series. So
I don't think they have the most production if you look at total numbers, but in terms of average points per game, the two of them are ahead by far. Like it's not even close how far they are ahead of everybody else in the last 2 or 3 years. So It'll be really interesting if that does happen, Trey. I mean, I feel Edmonton feels their window is now. Edmonton feels a lot like the Oklahoma City Thunder in the sense where, like, maybe there's not enough ice for two guys who are absolute superstars. But I don't know if we can keep the
back
band
then. Gotcha.
together. So that's why that might happen with Toronto, where it makes perfect sense that he may opt out the year before if they want to say, hey, look, let's try and get something for it, knowing that that's where his head's at, his heart's at, where he wants to be, where he wants to bleed, who he wants to win it with. And so Edmonton might pull the trigger and be like, fine, then you need to give us a bunch of key pieces, and that might interfere or it might not, because if him and Austin do play together and they're determined to bring the cup back to Canada, then it's a story. It's a movie, right? It's set to be a movie.
So I mean, one of the things I was thinking was ultimately the biggest thing that these teams have to do, and I've been saying it for the last month and a half, 2 months. They have to go get a goaltender.
Mm-hmm.
End of story. A good goaltender. Bobrovsky's playing out of his mind right now. A good goaltender is going to lead you to the cup.
Mm-hmm.
Those goals that Schneider, I think it was not Schneider for Edmonton. Mike, who was his
Edmonton?
name? Skinner.
Stuart Skinner. Yeah,
were uncalled for. Easy wrist shot from the slot that goes right by his glove. Like, it's like, how do you not save that? I understand it's going at 85 miles an hour, but still, you're a professional goaltender. You're supposed to save those. Those are easy saves. The one that gets a good goaltender is going to be the one that's going to win a cup, a national championship, a Stanley Cup.
Well, I wanted to win a national championship.
You took that thing right off my finger.
Mike, what's your or?
Or I was going to say, for the Toronto thing to go along with Trey, Leon Draisaitl is a free agent going into the 2025 season. So if he signs with Toronto first, and then McDavid signs with him 2 years later.
Super team.
We
and then Austin Matthews signs with Edmonton. That would just be weird.
I think Toronto would take.
Wait, I thought we were meeting here. Wait, what?
I thought I was coming to Edmonton. You guys are
son of a bitch.
Well, we're definitely in agreement that the Montreal Canadiens will never win a Stanley Cup ever again.
Oh, if Chicago didn't get it, John can attest to this. When he and I were talking about the lottery for the NHL. I was saying either Chicago or Montreal. It's going to be Chicago or Montreal. So I think Montreal would have. You could say, if you want to say it's rigged, I don't think it was, but I think it would have been Montreal if not Chicago.
Chicago's definitely got the best player in this draft, hands down, with Connor Bedard.
Absolutely,
he's a phenomenal player. But yeah, that's why I think it's kind of rigged, because looking at the teams, like Montreal got it last year, and looking at, you don't want Chicago to be in the basement, right? So
right,
we'll see what happens. I mean, ultimately, I think a Canadian team will. They have the talent, they have the opportunities. They play the season well. I think it goes back to what one of Jay's topics is. It needs to be an underdog mentality. They need to be like the bottom of the going into the playoffs, and just that's how they got to win it.
Right. Well, so the thing is, there's 7 NHL teams in Canada, right?
Yeah, 7.
I was thinking about it.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about it. There's really only 2 that aren't currently like pushing for the playoffs or haven't been in the playoffs recently, and that's Ottawa and Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
But like the other 5 have all had success, just not like Stanley Cup winning success, but they've all hit the playoffs, and I think they've probably all at least each won a series at one point or another. So
Calgary lost to the Bolts in the Stanley Cup.
They were in that cup, weren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Who?
Calgary. They lost to the Bolts.
Was that
Calgary didn't? No. Calgary didn't lose. Calgary lost to Dallas. Dallas lost to the Bolts in it.
But yeah.
So guys, I think we're gonna take our Canadian to stump the squad there, eh, boy?
Hey everyone, I'm Ray Ferraro.
Is it that time?
It is. It is time for Stump the Squad
with Ray Ferraro.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's our favorite time.
Take it away, Jay.
Stump the Squad is when all of us get together for a couple minutes to really show you guys we know everything about sports, because we do. But we're really cheating and looking at our laptops and getting answers wrong, so you feel good about yourselves. So the way it works, 2 points for a correct answer, -2 for a wrong answer. Person with the most points at the end gets the rant of the week. And as always, we gang up against Mikey to try and take him down. So that is our mission every week. Trey Day, you got a question for us to lead us into the promised land this evening?
Yeah, so what I wanted to do this week, because it was the anniversary of the Jose Batista and Odor fight. That was a great fight, right? I remember watching on ESPN at night, and they had a boxing analyst come in to talk about if it was a good punch or not. So what we're going to do today is going to be a boxing question in honor of the anniversary.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so we're going to go a little off the board here. So, amateur boxing became an Olympic sport in what year? 1904, 1944, 1928, or 1908? Do I need to repeat choices?
Say it again.
1904, 1944, 1928, 1908.
Amateur boxing, like officially?
Yeah, it became an Olympic sport in what year?
1944 was an answer, right?
Yep, 44 was an answer.
44.
1908, 1904.
1944 and 1928.
So I'm going to say 28 coming off the Depression. 44 is null and void because that was during World War, and I don't think they had the Olympics then. So I'm going with 1928.
So we have a 1928 for Jay. Mike,
Yeah,
I heard 28. Are we locking that in?
Yep, we're locking that in.
John,
Yeah,
what
I
do you
think
have?
Jay. I have 44, but I
You have
know it's wrong.
44.
It's probably actually is 44 simply because it was World War II.
Let's see what we got here. So I have successfully stumped the entire squad.
04?
So 4.
08. 1908.
2008.
It became an official sport in 1908.
Wow.
But shout out to
Well,
those
the only-
guys because they gave us a lot of entertainment. We got good boxing on the baseball diamond.
Oh, yeah.
So
Okay.
let's see.
All right, Trey.
Let's see what Mike has today.
Oh, God. Okay. So I'm going to take it to the hardwood in light of our recent NBA draft lottery.
Mhm.
My question is this. What was special about the 1996 NBA draft? Was it A, it opened with 6 straight All-Stars? B, the team who won the first pick couldn't use it? C, it was the first time an international player was taken number 1? Or D, only 1 second-round pick ended up playing in the NBA? I can repeat if you wish, of course.
Repeat.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is, what was special about the 1996 NBA draft? It opened with 6 straight All-Stars taken. The team who won the first pick couldn't use it. It was the first time an international player was taken first overall. Or only 1 second-round pick ended up playing in the NBA.
The team that had the first pick couldn't use it. I don't know why I think.
I'm gonna go with the second round.
I think that was a very heavy draft. I'm gonna go with the first one, but that's not a trick question, right? Because like it's not. Is it future All Stars? Or you can't give that away.
So
He's saying the top 6 picks ended up being all stars, is what he's saying.
at some point in their careers.
At some point or another.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a trick question because it's like, ha, they can't be all stars because they're not drafted yet.
Oh no! I'm not gonna. I'm not weaving the 2028 Stanley Cup champion Toronto Maple Leafs into this. No.
I think that was
I'm gonna go with that
Iverson, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that was his.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with that one.
Okay, so John, you say it
Was
opened
it
with 6
Iverson
straight All-Stars.
Marbury draft.
Yeah.
Jamie said the.
Jamie, are you locking in the first team couldn't use the pick?
Yeah.
And Trey, you are locking in that only 1 second rounder played in the NBA.
Yeah.
Okay. I have successfully stumped John and Trey. The Toronto Raptors won the first overall pick in the lottery, but upon original agreement when they and the Grizzlies came into the league, they were not allowed to have the first overall picks in 96, 97, or 98.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so there was a repick, which ended up giving the Sixers the number 1 pick, where they took Allen Iverson.
I knew Iverson was the first pick.
John, it was close that 6 All-Stars got taken consecutively. 5 of the first 6 were taken. The only one, Marcus Camby.
Yep.
I actually knew that one. I watched the documentary on 96 draft, so I knew that was it.
Out of the University of Massachusetts. For getting it right.
John Calipari.
He went to UMass.
Ooh, for getting it right. Well. Gentlemen, since we are deep in the NBA playoffs, I thought I'd throw something out there that may stump the squad. So let's see. It's obvious that we know LeBron has played the most playoff minutes in NBA history. But who is second to LeBron in most playoff minutes played in their career? Is it Kobe Bryant, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Tim Duncan, or Scottie Pippen?
My answer wasn't there.
Is it Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Kobe Bryant,
I feel like Trey knows this.
Tim Duncan, or Scottie Pippen?
Well, 2 of them are Lakers, so if it's a Laker, he probably knows, at least.
Who's the Laker?
No, I'm actually mulling this over.
Kareem and Kobe.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I don't know why. Like, I immediately thought Kareem and Bucks.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, he was Buck first, but
I know, but I don't know.
Alcindor when he played for the Bucks.
He was both. He was both good with both. But
oh,
I'm gonna say Tim Duncan.
Okay, we got 1 for Tim Duncan.
I'm gonna go Scotty.
Yeah. I also want to go Scotty simply because you'd think it would be any of the other 3, so I feel like it's one of those where it's gotta be the other one.
All right.
So I'll go with Scotty.
Gentlemen, I have successfully stumped Mike and Trey.
Okay.
Woo!
So the only other player, LeBron's way ahead at 11,000. The only player in the 9,000s is Tim Duncan at 9,370. After him would be Kareem, 88.51, Kobe at 86.41, and Pippen at 81.05. And those would be in that order. They are 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm out.
For some reason, just all those years with Tim Duncan in the playoff, like from when he
Yeah, he goes right because he played in so many finals. Tim Duncan played in
finals.
7 finals, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking about minutes and like LeBron played in 10. So I was just like, oh, okay, well, that works out. So right now,
I was down Duncan and Pippen at the end. Kobe, I've heard pretty much any use of Kobe stats. I knew wasn't that. Kareem near the end stopped playing as many minutes.
Exactly.
So I figured that tailed off. But Scotty still had that time with Houston and the Blazers. So
Portland as well.
I was gonna say that's what I was thinking.
Extra minutes that people forget about the post Bulls years. And
he
then
snuck
in the playoffs when Jordan was retired. He still was playing in the playoffs those couple of years.
Yeah. I really thought when I looked at this, I'm like, how is Pippen not number 2? I really thought when I checked it today, I'm like, in my mind, I was like, if it's not LeBron, it's Pippen because Pippen went 10 straight years of deep playoff runs and played a lot of time. So I'm like, how is it not Pippen? But I guess Duncan played a fuckload of minutes. So.
He did. I mean,
he did. I mean, think about all those teams, and he was barely ever hurt.
All right, John, bring it home.
Right now, all right. Scores are Jamie at 0, me at -2, Trey at -4, Mike at -4. So we're all really in it right now. So
we are. Oh, okay.
I don't know who we would call on Bubba. What's the question? All right. Well, we're going way back, right? As Mike and I normally do. Who were the 1949 NBA Eastern Conference champions? Was it the Philadelphia Warriors, the St. Louis Hawks, the Boston Celtics, or the Washington Capitals?
The St. Louis
Who
Hawks.
was?
I'm going St. Louis Hawks.
Well, let's see. Well, Ovi wasn't playing for the Caps yet.
Jamie?
I
Hawks.
think I think Ole Kolzig was in net for them that year.
No, this is basketball, Mike.
I know. I'm making a joke that it's
He's
the
making
Washington
a joke.
Capitals.
I was like, wait, Mike, I didn't think I said NBA, so so Jamie
Also,
and Trey say St. Louis.
Also, Ole Kolzig was a goalie in the 90s and 2000s.
Mikey, Mike,
I just don't know the answer to this, so I'm just spitting out things I do know.
Okay.
So one more time through the answers for me, please.
Give me 1 second. Philadelphia Warriors, St. Louis Hawks, Boston Celtics, or Washington Capitals?
You know, in for a penny, in for a pound. I'm trying to claw my way back. I'll just say the Washington Capitals, just because.
Well, I have successfully. And are we done with the answers?
Yeah.
Jamie?
Yeah, locked in. Hawks.
Okay. I have successfully stumped Jamie and Trey. It is the Washington Capitals.
So we have a
Because it was
movie.
spelled. So it's
No, I'm
spelled
out.
O-L-S.
OLS? Okay.
So it's
There's a
it's
four-way
a
tie?
tie between. No, we have a three-way tie.
Three-way.
So that means Trey needs to
Five,
come up with a question that we can get like closest to. Do you have something that you could ask us that we can get like
I gotta find
closest
something
to
real
the? Yeah.
Okay,
closest.
so how many with us basically talking about the NBA lottery today? Of course, talk about number one picks. We talk NBA lottery. So, how many number one overall NBA draft picks have won an NBA championship?
Oh, geez.
How many?
Yeah.
Number one.
Number one overall draft picks. How many of them in the history of the NBA have won at least one NBA championship?
Use it in a sentence. No, it's not.
Country of origin.
America. America.
America.
America.
How many number one picks have won an NBA championship?
Yep, number one overall.
Number one
I think
overall.
3.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm gonna say 6. No. 16.
Jay is meditating on it.
Give me a second.
So, John, you have 16.
16.
Mike, you
Mike
got
is-
27.
27.
11.
Interesting. So, today's Stump the Squad champion is drums. John.
Damn.
The answer is 20. There's
20.
been 20 players that were first overall. There's a lot, and I just quickly was looking this up, but there's a few guys that almost get for. It goes all the way back to 1950. So there's some guys that got forgotten, but then you also have a few sneaky ones. People like Dwight Howard, they won and they weren't stars.
I counted Dwight. Yeah, I counted Dwight.
but
I just didn't go
you got
all
a
the way
couple
back
guys
to the
that fit
50s.
that
I
like
stopped in the
remember.
70s. Yeah.
Well, I went all the way back to like, 'cause I was just watching the Bill Russell documentary and he was drafted number one. So I was like going all the way back then, and I was just thinking like,
first
okay,
guy was a guy named Chuck Scher. He was the first overall pick in 1950. He won a championship in 1958. So.
Yep.
Chance you all know.
That's why I put it high, because I was like, there's got to be some like 50s and 60s.
No, well, I knew
in there.
Bill, Magic, Dwight, Kareem,
Yeah.
David, Duncan,
Kobe.
and
No, Kobe wasn't.
No, not
number
Kobe.
one.
Kobe's
LeBron,
Hakeem.
Hakeem, and then there's a couple from the earlier. There's one or two, like you said, that was sneaky too that you wouldn't think of that would get in there. So I stopped at about 9, and I was like, maybe there's 2 more, but 20's a lot.
What about Magic and Bird? I don't know.
Yeah,
where
Magic
the
was in there. I counted Magic.
Magic.
All right, you two losers. It's my rant of the
But go ahead.
Go on.
Hope you prepared this week.
Go on.
hell out of
I am
us.
very prepared. I am very prepared this week. So, fellas, we have the conference finals for both NHL and NBA has come to South Beach, and without an announcement. And with that, I have been looking at tickets, and one of the things that I always bitch about is how ridiculous these tickets are. So, looking at the lower bowl, you're looking at an average of if you're looking on the ends, probably $300 to $600 for the Heat. For the Panthers, probably $200 to $400 per ticket. But still, when I look at the NBA and I look at the NFL and the MLB and the NHL, you look at who's in the stands at these finals and these conference finals, these playoffs. It's never the real fans. You got DJ Khaled sitting courtside on his phone the whole freaking time, saying "we the best" into his phone, rubbing Eric Spoelstra. You got all these stupid people in the. You don't have the real fans there, and it's really frustrating that you spend all your like time and effort to go watch it, and you finally want to go watch one of these teams play, and you got to spend a boatload of money. So, to these organizations, I know you're never going to lower the prices because people continue to buy, but it would be nice for it to come down to a reasonable price. If you want to charge $100, $150 a ticket, that's reasonable for a playoff ticket or a finals ticket for me. But I'm not going to sit up in the 400 section when I have an 80-inch TV. I could just sit there and watch just as good. So, for me, the true fans are missing out on these games because they're absolutely ridiculous. And, it's just terrible, man. It's just terrible. I just can't believe it, man.
Well,
I was just watching I was watching Charles Barkley rant about John Morant, and that was pretty funny too. But yeah, that's my thing, because I've been looking to see, like, I was like asking Malin's uncle if she wants, we should look at tickets to go to the games, and they're just astronomical. So we're just like, let's just go to a bar and grab a couple drinks and relax.
There ain't no real true Miami Heat fans. And I'm sorry to even say that at you. No, the Miami Heat do not have true loyal fans.
Well, that's the other part, right? Like there's no real true fans down here, because it's funny, because I'll go to the grocery store like last year and they were talking about the Panthers. Like, yeah, if the Panthers were just good, and I'm like, they just won the President's Trophy. And they're like, what's that? I'm like, the best record in hockey. They're like, oh, I had no idea. I'm like, yeah, like you gotta go up there and watch a game. Well, no, not even the playoffs. The regular season, like the regular season, they're good. Like,
and John's right. Yeah, as soon as all of a sudden it's like, wait, we're in the playoffs and we're doing good. Now I want to go to the games.
Right.
It's like Trey and I back in 2013. We were roommates when we met in Disney, and we were sitting there talking about because the NBA Heat just won, and we were talking about that, how. He was looking up tickets, and at that time he was down in Miami, or not down in Orlando at the time, looking at the finals tickets, and the tickets were never even sold out. Like usually you have a sellout and stuff. So, which is crazy to me. Like if you can still buy tickets to an NBA Finals game with LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh, that's crazy to me. So. I think that's you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, Jamie. There is no true fandomship down here. It's not like Tampa, where you have those diehard fans up there. So, but that just frustrates me. It frustrates me to see those prices, because it's like, damn, like, man, like, yeah, like, and then the other thing that frustrates me is that they give these tickets away to these superstars who can afford the tickets, who you should be charging $400-$500 a piece for. But no, let's get DJ Khaled rubbing Eric Spoelstra's shoulders and blocking traffic on the way out because I want to get home and whatnot.
Well, you gotta get the virtual headset and just go courtside.
Yeah, there you
go. Bro, I'll just be like this the whole time. It's just... There's a guy in the stands asleep.
No, you don't have to go to the game.
You need during the show.
It's just John in a quiet room yelling.
You should, bro. I don't have enough. Me at a virtual game front court.
I wouldn't even. No, because I don't have enough Wi-Fi connection. You saw the whole time I was freezing the whole time. I would be stuck in the first quarter or something.
Total glitch, nonstop in the game. Players' bodies, the head's one way, the legs are still in half court. Hey, John, the Lakers, before we go, the Lakers might be the luckiest team in the draft in the sense of where they fell, because they may get the best shooter in the draft, which is what they need in Jordan Hawkins.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's the best team that can win.
I'd also like to point out I was a senior in high school in 2013. So
there you go.
Lakers fell out.
I was
I
in
know, right?
Barcelona.
He's always got to do that. He's always got to do that. He's always got to throw it in there, just a little jab. Yeah, I was a teenager.
5 when that happened.
I just turned 21, and Jamie was what?
97.
Don't worry about it.
Ben, I told.
They call me
Before,
Grandpa
Even
Joe.
though-
we heard it. But
Even though
Benjamin
Jamie's
Button-
the oldest, he looks the youngest.
It's so true. It's
I was
so
actually
not even funny.
31.
Well, fellas, it was a great show. We have a lot in store for this weekend. Don't forget to lock in Jamie's bets of the week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Get your money and then buy us the studio, and you could be a
Yes.
sponsor.
Yes.
Looking forward to the
Yeah,
NHL and
sure.
NBA playoffs. We got the PGA Championship in Rochester, New York, where Mike will be attending for Cinco Squad. He doesn't get,
Sick.
don't worry.
Yeah, who's your
Sure.
pick for the PGA Championship? You doing it, Ron?
Mine.
Rory.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Brooks Koepka. He plays
Nice.
this tournament well. He does. He loves these tournaments. He loves the PGA Championship. He plays good in these all the time. He's got 2, and he's been playing really good golf. So I'm saying Brooks Koepka. Second runner up is probably Rahm. Rahm has been playing a
I'm
phenomenal golf.
surprised you didn't think your boy Jason Day is going to sneak into the top 5.
Bro, I love how Jason's playing, man. Like he just won that the Byron Nelson last week. So I love how he's playing. So any final thoughts, fellas, before we take it 2 out of the show?
Yeah, unfortunately, Man City's going to win a treble this year. So
I'm
the
sorry.
fake Man City fans get to celebrate one more time. But they'll be the first English team to do that in like, I don't know, about almost 25 years. So
Good for
good
them.
on them.
Good for them.
Well, make sure you're liking, subscribing, and sharing our post on all social medias: Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the other one. What's the iHeart?
iHeart?
Oh, that's right. The one
The
I
one we
work
work
for.
And the other
So
one.
make sure you're sharing and liking. Make sure you're liking on there, and we'll see you guys next week.